This is VOA Africa.
Hello, I'm Esther Githui-Ewart. It's Friday, May 28th. Welcome to Africa 54. We continue to work remotely because of the COVID-19 pandemic, but what hasn't changed is our commitment to bringing you the latest and most important news from the African continent and around the world. This is today's Africa 54. Residents of DRC's eastern city, Goma, have been told evacuation is compulsory amid warnings that another volcanic eruption following one on Saturday could occur with very little or no warning. Managing editor Vincent Makori has the story.
Thousands fled Democratic Republic of Congo's eastern city of Goma on Thursday amid warnings that a new volcanic eruption could hit at any time. Nearby Mount Nyiragongo, one of the world's most active and dangerous volcanoes, erupted on Saturday. At least 31 people were killed and thousands left homeless as some 17 villages were destroyed. The river of lava stopped just a few hundred meters short of Goma's city limits. Officials are now warning that magma has been detected beneath Goma and the adjoining Lake Kivu, and that an eruption could occur with very little or no warning. Volcanologists warned early on Thursday that in a worst-case scenario, a volcanic eruption under the lake accompanied by an earthquake could trigger a sudden release of carbon dioxide. Such an explosion could asphyxiate thousands of people. Officials have said evacuation is compulsory, prompting people to head out of the city in cars, boats across Lake Kivu, or on foot, with some picking their way across a landscape charred by lava still hot from Saturday's eruption. Vincent Makori, VOA News.
Even as the residents of Goma flee again due to fears of new volcanic eruptions, there have been reports that the Goma Observatory for Volcanology is not functioning. VOA's Kinshasa reporter Anastasia Tudiesh asked Patrick Muyaya, DRC government spokesman, what is the issue?
Before having this eruption, you have some sign. It's not just because you have this observatory walking around. It's because you have some natural sign. You can feel some movement, some seismic movement. You can feel some art, but nobody felt that. What is coming now? People never experienced that. In 2002 or in 1977, that's something new.
That was Patrick Muyaya, DRC government spokesman. Germany on Friday apologized for its role in slaughter of Herero and Nama tribespeople in Namibia more than a century ago and officially described the massacre as genocide for the first time. It agreed to fund projects worth over €1 billion over 30 years to atone for its role in genocide and property seizures in its then colony, according to Namibia media reports. German soldiers killed some 65,000 Herero and 10,000 Nama members in a 1904 to 1908 campaign after a revolt against land seizures by colonialists. Historians and the United Nations have long called it the first genocide in the 20th century. While Germany has previously acknowledged moral responsibility for the killings, it has avoided making an official apology for the massacres to avoid compensation claims. Mali's ousted interim leaders have been freed after they were detained by the army and resigned, according to a military representative. Interim President Bando and Prime Minister Mokta Ouane were arrested and taken to a military base outside the capital on Monday, jeopardizing an 18-month transition back to democracy after a coup last August. International powers, including the United States and military ally France, worried about worsening security in Mali and its neighbors, have condemned the arrests and threatened sanctions. The two men resigned from their posts while in detention on Wednesday. The arrests were orchestrated by Vice President Assimi Goïta, who led last year's coup that overthrew former President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta. The United States is warning Ethiopia and Eritrea that they may face further U.S. actions, including Magnitsky Act sanctions, if those stoking violence against civilians in the Tigray region do not reverse course. Leading U.S. lawmakers also support tougher measures to end the atrocities. VOA senior diplomatic correspondent Cindy Sain has our report.
More than 6 months of conflict in Ethiopia's Tigray region between the Ethiopian and Eritrean militaries and the Tigray People's Liberation Front have left thousands dead, some 2 million people forced from their homes, and some 5 million facing famine. Senate Foreign Relations Committee Chairman Bob Menendez held a hearing on the Tigray crisis Thursday and said he sees echoes of the genocide in Darfur.
All sides are guilty of abuses, but the fragmentary reporting we have indicates that Ethiopian, Eritrean, and allied militia have disproportionately been responsible for targeting civilians in a manner that is both reckless and sinister. We appear to be witnessing war crimes and crimes against humanity.
As the violence and the humanitarian crisis worsen, Menendez and other senators called on the State Department to finish reviewing whether the atrocities in Tigray amount to war crimes as soon as possible. Ranking member Senator Jim Risch agreed that the world has seen this script before in places like Darfur and Rwanda.
The United States and its allies must continue to transition and do so quickly from a position of hands-off diplomacy, like encouragement, engagement, and talking to the Ethiopian and Eritrean governments to hands-on action.
Reports of gang rape of Tigrayan women and girls are widespread. Here, rape survivors shelter in a safe house in Mekelle and learn new skills. Sarah Charles of the U.S. Agency for International Development told senators the brutality is some of the worst she has ever seen.
The reports not only speak to widespread incidents of rape and other gender-based violence, but of systematic attempts to dismantle society and destroy families. Some perpetrators are targeting the wives of priests, abusing women in front of their families, or using a level of violence so brutal that women are left with organ damage.
Robert Godek, the U.S. Acting Assistant Secretary for the Bureau of African Affairs, said that after such a hopeful beginning under Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, Ethiopia is now at a turning point, and unless it reverses course, could face further measures such as Magnitsky Act sanctions that can include asset freezes and barring human rights violators from entering the U.S.
Ethiopia is at a turning point. The government's response of mass arrests, media restrictions, human rights violations, and declining political space is fueling intercommunal rivalry and imperiling the national elections now scheduled for June 21.
Contradicting multiple human rights and relief organizations, Ethiopian government officials say the vast majority of those killed in Tigray are fighters, not civilians. Ethiopia's foreign ministry has accused the United States of meddling in its internal affairs and threatens to reassess relations with Washington if security sanctions continue. Cindy Sain, VOA News.
French President Emmanuel Macron says shipping COVID-19 vaccines to Africa is not just a moral duty, but it is also in Europe and the world's interest in order to prevent the resurgence of the new virus variants. Macron was on a visit to Rwanda on Thursday. He said France was on track to deliver 30 million COVID-19 vaccination doses to Africa by year end, that Germany would also deliver 30 million doses, and that collectively the European Union would deliver more than 100 million doses to Africa this year. On the sidelines of a state visit, Macron dropped by a vaccination center in Kigali, one of more than 500 centers around the country, and spoke with people who had their first vaccine dose. In the tournament's most competitive game so far, Rwanda's Patriots defeated Mozambique's Ferroviario de Maputo 73-71 in the quarterfinals of the Basketball Africa League. Tunisia's Union Sportive Monastirien had an easier time with Senegal, as Douanes beating them 86-62 to punch their ticket into the semi-finals in Kigali, Rwanda. Jackson Bunganyi has the highlights.
With a steal early on, the Patriots' Brandon Costner made a full court pass to Seda Sagamba for 2. The host team did it again in the first quarter when Diodone Ndize got a pass to Kenneth Gasana, but this time for a 3. But the Patriots turned it over as Maputo's Aljehi Baru caught the ball and went straight to the rim for 2 points. Tied with 3 minutes left in the first quarter, Rwanda's Wilson Shobozwa went for 3 and got it in. That lead extended to 11, but that's when Maputo's Damarcus Holland made a 3 and got fouled on the play. Patriots were hot early at the start of the second half with Shobozwa's pass to Gasana, who dropped a 3. Maputo answered with a 3 of their own by Custodio Mochate. Maputo led by 4 with 8 minutes to go, but that's when Rwanda's Gasana ran down the court and made a basket as he landed on the ground. With the Patriots down by 1, Aristide Mugabe hit a 3, getting his team back in the lead. Mugabe stayed hot as he made another crucial 3, pushing their lead to 5 with 5 to go. But it got very close as the Patriots led by 1 when Maputo's Mike Kabongo made a pass to Alvaro Massa, who scored. Tied at 70 with a minute to go, Patriots player Costner went to the foul line and got his team the lead. The Patriots closed out the game, winning by 2. Kenneth Gasana recorded a game-high 23 points for his winning team, while Maputo's Damarcus Holland got 13 points, 4 rebounds, and 8 assists in their loss. Monastir got off to a fast start as Macron Ben Romdani passed to Majok Atar James for a dunk. Tunisia kept the momentum in the first quarter with a pass from Omar Abada to Romdan Slimani, who found Romdani in the paint for 2. Romdan went with another pass to James, who got to the rim for another dunk. Duans Mamadou Faye assisted Modou Mbaye to hit a 3. With a minute left in the first, Faye himself got a 3-pointer in, cutting Monastir's lead to 1. Up by 10 with 5 minutes left until the half, Tunisia's Abada found James, who passed to Marcus Christopher Crawford for a 3. Abada got the ball in the right hands as Romdani passed to Crawford, who made another 3-pointer, extending Monastir's lead to 16. With less than a minute to go in the third, Senegal's Sheikh Ahmed Kamara went with a pass to Salim Matia, who got a bucket. But there was no coming back for Douane as Crawford hit a 2-point shot for Monastir, eventually winning by 24. James recorded 17 points and 6 rebounds for Monastir, and while Sheikh Bamba Diallo got 15 points for Douane in the loss.
With these wins, Patriots and AS Monastir advanced to the semi-finals, while AS Douane and Ferroviario de Maputo head home. Stay with us for all the highlights throughout the tournament here on Africa 54. You can hear the games live on these local VOA FM stations or at voanews.com. Still to come, who is Eden Allen, the Israeli singer who represented her country at the 2021 Eurovision Song Contest? We'll be right back.
All this week on Africa 54, we are partnering with the BAL to bring you the best of African basketball. Don't miss it.
Welcome back to Africa 54. In Senegal, some growers are trying new farming techniques to reduce the use of man-made chemicals and improve crop yields. Alison Lekogo Fernandez checks on an agroecology experiment in a Dakar suburb.
Outside the Senegalese town of Rufisque, a group of farmers is using techniques that respect the environment, protect health, and produce good harvests. The method is called agroecology. Alioune Balde is among 125 growers using these eco-friendly techniques to promote sustainability. After taking agroecology courses, he is testing the method of not using synthetic fertilizers or pesticides to grow crops.
Chemicals are overused.
putting the producer himself in danger. Usually, they give me headaches, stomach aches. You have the impression that something is wrong inside you.
Tu as l'impression que quelque chose ne marche pas quoi, dans ton intérieur.
So, in an experiment, Balde set up 2 plots of 100 square meters each, with help from an expert at the Senegalese Institute for Agricultural Research and from an agricultural engineer. In one plot, Balde planted onions using chemical fertilizer and hybrid seed. In the other, he planted them using agroecological techniques.
En ce qui concerne l'engrais chimique, il fallait le remplacer avec un engrais organique.
We replaced chemical fertilizer with an organic fertilizer of composted manure. We tried to enrich the soil with nutrients, for example, with phosphorus, with potassium.
De nutriments, par exemple avec le phosphate, avec le potassium.
When the time came to harvest the onions, the agroecological plot yielded a bigger harvest, 469 kilos. The other produced 437 kilos. Almost a dozen growers gathered to check out the results.
With our grandfathers, we use pesticides and other chemicals. If we were simply told to leave the old ways, it would be a little hard. But with these comparison plots, we have seen that is a question of will.
Agricultural engineer Mamadou Lamining, who is also a project manager for the non-profit group GRDR, does not believe in pressuring growers to switch to more sustainable practices. He wants them to discover the benefits for themselves.
Our approach, what is it? Set up comparison plots to allow producers to see agroeconomic performance in terms of yield, effort, expense. They can be convinced to transition to agroecology.
Être convaincu par la transition agroécologique.
Some growers say they want government subsidies to help transition to eco-friendly techniques and to compensate them for potential losses. Agroecology enthusiasts like Balde predict overall gains for people and the planet. Alison Ekogo-Fernandez for VOA News, Rufisque, Senegal.
Today, Friday, May 28th, marks the end of an era for Shaka Sali at the Voice of America. Shaka grew up in Kavale village in Uganda. He joined the Voice of America 29 years ago and for 2 decades hosted VOA's Straight Talk Africa show. I spoke to Shaka, who begins by highlighting his achievements in VOA.
I have to say that there have been very many events that have happened during my stay at the Voice of America for the last 29 years. But I think that I would sum it briefly as a very, very challenging journey that also was somewhat interesting and incredibly rewarding.
You had loyal guests, Shaka, on your show. That meant so much to you. They sacrificed their time to join you, rain, snow, or the summer heat. Why do you think they stuck with you to the very end?
I was not a very traditional type of guy. And so I sometimes used what I would characterize as a sort of guerrilla tactics in order to get unfettered access to some very, very inaccessible guests, for example. And here, the first person that comes to mind is a former Kenyan president, President Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi. You cannot believe this, Esther, but it took me 7 years before I could finally link up with President Moi. It took me 1999, when I also happened to be in a situation where I interviewed another equally very difficult president to access. That was the Democratic Republic of the Congo President, Laurent Désiré Kabila, in 1999. And of course, the second time is when you and I were with the Voice of America director, Sunday Anga. 2001, President Daniel Toriti Moi grants us an exclusive interview. The other one definitely has to be Zambia's founding president, Dr. David Kenneth Kaunda. That is another incredible highlight.
Are you working on a biography to reflect on your journey? And if so, what should we look forward to?
I learned a long time ago to know that, yes, you could talk about how the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. But to be honest with you, in reality, it is a detour. And I think those are some of the things that you learn in my memoirs.
You have a famous line, retired but not tired. And your, and your fans and viewers alike want to hear what exactly you will be doing during your retirement.
I have decided to dedicate the rest of my life to getting an opportunity to motivate and inspire the African youth to be the best that they could be at whatever they choose.
What's your advice to colleagues at VOA and those joining the Voice of America now?
I think that the Voice of America is an incredible organization. As you can see, of course, I was once an obscure kid from cavalry. The Voice of America has transformed me.
Will you be returning to Africa, or will you be spending time between the United States and the continent?
I have often told people that whereas I may in fact be physically present here in the United States, I have never left Africa. I would like to dedicate my life, the rest of my life, to being there, providing my shoulders to the African youth so that they could actually or can stand on my shoulders to see a little bit farther than I. What is needed sincerely for us and the younger generation is to reclaim the dignity of Africa, to reclaim the Africa that does not have borders or boundaries. And for that, I thank God the Almighty for having given me the wisdom.
Certainly retired, but not tired. We wish Ndugu Shaka Sali the very best in the next chapter of his life. Last week's 2021 Eurovision Song Contest captivated much of Europe with 5 days of competitive performances by 39 participating countries. Italy's rock band Måneskin won the contest, with France coming in second. But Music Time in Africa's Heather Maxwell had her eye on another top contender. She is joined by VOA's Salem Solomon to report.
Was one of the finalists for the Eurovision 2021 Song Contest that took place in Rotterdam, Netherlands. She represented Israel with the song Set Me Free. And here to watch it and talk about it with me is VOA's reporter, Salem Solomon. Hi, Salem.
Hey, how's it going? Good to be here.
Feeling like a prison, looking for the reason I don't wanna say goodbye. Feels like no tomorrow, everywhere that I go, babe, I'm gonna lose my mind.
Okay, Solomon, so what do you think about this song?
Oh my goodness. I mean, Set Me Free is just so, it's so catchy.
Set me free, feel my beating heart in perfect harmony.
This is not her first rodeo, and somebody was asking her what she wants to convey with this song is that she felt like there was a lot of focus on her identity before, but now with this Set Me Free, the focus was on her musical talent. She is a powerhouse. Like when you listen to the high notes she was like, you know, belting out. That was amazing.
It was paradise.
This is such an amazing video, and her live performances too just blow people away. And as you said, it's not her first time. She also took part in 2 of Israel's biggest talent shows. There was X Factor Israel and The Rising Star, and she won both, making her the only person to have done that in Israel. So she's made already history for her country on the music scene there. And last year, 2020 Eurovision was canceled, but she was supposed to be representing Israel last year with a different song, which is also beautiful, Fikr Libi.
Yeah, Fikr Libi. Fikr Libi. I think she brought in different languages in that song. And I think she explained it saying, you know, that's because she's been exposed to different cultures because of music.
Once upon a time, I was looking for a sign, but your mama, show the way, you'll be my guide.
And she basically coming out with her voice, with her beautiful voice, showing that Israel is, you know, multicultural place with different people from her background as well. And so it says a lot about her, not just her talents, but her presence and her background. So
absolutely,
it's such a joy to watch too. I was bawling out. Like, I saw her mother in one of her auditions, and I was getting emotional watching her mom and how proud she is, just like crushing with joy. I think anybody in a broader level can connect with her.
One thing too that is amazing about her is she's so tiny. She's thin as a rail, and yet she has this huge voice, a wide range, and a huge presence.
Speaking of a big voice, she was doing a cover for Beyonce's different music variations, and just like what you said, like really this very small physique, and then belting out this big voice, and people don't expect it, and you see them like getting goosebumps, like the judges, you know, reacting to it that way. You know, she's been enlisted in the military because of the way the system is. And when you think of her physically, it's just hard to imagine.
Salem, she was the lead vocalist of the Israeli Defense Forces band. And after her military service, she went to Tel Aviv, and that's where she started her music career. So she's one of our favorites, and even though she didn't win, we love her and her new album she's working on, and the world looks forward to listening to this, and I'll be sure to share some of her music in the future with our listeners and our viewers.
Have a great weekend.